cheaters of Reddit, why you are currently cheating on your so? Because I thought I was bored. Because I thought there might be something better. Because I thought I could get away with it. Wrong, and seriously I'm wrong. Not exactly a cheating story but pretty funny. I was once dating someone in college, and let's just say he was really into video games. He was so into video game that he completely ignored me for 2 weeks. No calls, no texts, no emails, nothing. I literally had zero contact with him for 2 weeks despite efforts on my part. What's a girl to do? I started dating someone new. Eventually Sir Douchillet comes back out of the woodwork and I tell him sorry, I'm with someone else now. He gets really upset and says I cheated on him. Seriously, you ignore a person for 2 weeks and expect they are still dating you? Get real. I have cheated a whole bunch on just about every single girlfriend I have ever had throughout my entire life. It branches out from an insecurity that I may have developed in middle school when I got cheated on for the first time, and I think I figured if I'm the first to cheat I can't get hurt if she does the same thing. Later in life my reasoning changed / morphed to a darker insecurity about being accepted by women. If girls still wanted me then I was doing something right. I have since grown up and taken a lot of time to work past the narcissistic nature of all of this and had to work through some personal I had to give up drinking and cut party girls and the party scene out of my life almost entirely. But even after doing all of that and having a reasonably functional relationship for the past 2 years, I can still hear that dark voice sometimes reasoning with me on why I should try and F this girl. I didn't want to fail calculus. Oh, that kind of cheating? Because I didn't want to fail calculus. When I was in college I had a friend named Lee. He was a nice enough guy, not particularly attractive, but a hard worker. He tended to make some sexist jokes, but I knew he was joking, so I brushed it off. We ended up going to the same graduate school as each other and started dating. In hindsight, we dated because we knew each other. We were married 4 years later. Life was decent, and when we were both finished with school we moved. When we moved, he changed. We used to do things together, but he started pawning me off on male friends of mine. If I wanted to go to a concert, he would ask me to see if one of my male friends would go with me, so he wouldn't have to. He was constantly trying to change me. He was picking apart my appearance every day. Life was a mediocre one. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't very great either. He refused to get counseling and told me I couldn't go because that was for weak sick people. Eventually I fell in love with one of the guys that he was pawning me off on. As soon as I realized that my marriage was over and that I was in love with another man, I left the master bedroom for the guest bedroom. I told B how I felt. He let it sink in a few days and told me he felt the same way. We started dating while I was separated by bedrooms. Not legally, but my husband didn't know. I had no intention of staying married, but I was trying to give him enough time to process what was going on. So I became a despicable cheater. I still beat myself up over it 4 years later. I didn't overlap sleeping with anyone or anything physical. I was just still legally married, and my husband was in the dark that the separation was permanent. In the aftermath, I forged an amazing relationship with B, and we are still together. He's my soulmate, my perfect half. I never thought that about Lee. I thought Lee was a good provider, not a good husband. I'm not proud of that few weeks where I was dating B, but Lee thought we still had a chance to reconcile. We didn't. It is easy to justify my decisions sometimes because Lee ended up being a pretty bad person and B isn't. B doesn't say sexist things that I would have to overlook to avoid a fight. He tells me I'm beautiful every day. Lee ended up finding another relationship with a beautiful woman really into the BDSM community. He is her dom now. If that is what he was looking for in me, I think that explains a lot of the problems we had. We were a horrible fit for each other, but I still shouldn't have cheated. I freely tell people about this story because I know what I did was wrong, and I consider it my remittance. Well, I haven't done it yet. I think I probably would given the opportunity though. Basically we've stopped having sex. We've talked about it a lot and there doesn't seem to be any resolution in sight. It's pretty rough cause nothing else is really wrong. I think if I asked for an open relationship, that would just end it. She's rather conservative in this regard. I think staying with her is better for our child, and honestly there's nothing wrong other than the sex. So it's not like we are fighting in front of the kid all the time or anything. I'm hoping to think of a better solution, but reaching the end of my patience. I always said I would never cheat. I broke that vow recently. My girlfriend, or whatever we are now, moved across the country a few months ago. Despite our phone conversations, I've been pretty lonely. In the meantime, a very close girlfriend of mine has been having troubles with her BF. I've known her for years and we have always had a connection, but both of us were always in other relationships, so we've remained close friends. Several nights ago we both got drunk and had great sex. I felt so guilty about it the next day, though. I told my girlfriend I wanted to break up, but made up excuses as to why. We still talk, but the other girl is sticking around and saying she wants to break up with her BF for me. This ordeal is giving me some serious mixed feelings. GF moved 1,000 miles away, cheated with a close friend. This is a story from my past that I'm not proud of. My then girlfriend, we'll call her C, and I had been together for about 4 years in 2009. We had lived together for 3 years, but had no plans to get married. C is the most loving and caring person I've ever met in my life. She isn't the life of the party, but she possesses the highest moral character of anyone I've ever met. This makes her the most beautiful person in the world to me. But like I said, she isn't the crazy party girl, and I wasn't sure what kind of woman I was looking for. Things weren't going well for C and I because I started hanging out with the wrong type of people. I was drinking all the time and I began to strike up a friendship with a young girl I worked with. We will call the new girl V. V was the life of the party, wild and beautiful. But this was balanced with the fact that she was immature and crazy. I started going out to have a few drinks with V. We would smoke cigarettes and flirt with one another. But the moment it escalated was when we went to the movies together. It was an afternoon movie, I can't remember the name, and there was nobody in the theater but us. We had a moment where our knees brushed against each other. From this time on we engaged in that teenage cat and mouse game of touching each other by accident. The tension was so high at the end of the movie that we just stared at each other but didn't do anything. I remember we smoked a cigarette afterwards and felt like we had just had sex. We were that attracted to each other. V and I continued this charade for a few days and tried to act like we didn't have feelings for each other. I'm not proud of this, but during this time, we did fool around quite a bit. Cheater's X is like the crack cocaine of making love. It feels fantastic while you're doing it, but once the rush wears off you are lower than you've ever been and require more and more of it to keep the high going. It's an unsustainable thing that will consume you if you let it. C started to figure out what was going on with all my deleted text messages and call records. It really sucks writing this because I'm not proud of these moments in my life. It finally came to the point where I was going to leave the faithful C for the wild V. C came home from her job one evening and we started talking. I'm terrible at breakups, so I kept beating around the bush. She finally asked, "Do you want to break up with me? If you aren't happy just tell me, but you can't keep putting me through this." She was crying, and I felt effing awful with myself. C had taken me from dark places, depression, alcoholism, family issues, and always stuck by me. She saw me for the man I could become, not for the man I was. In the back of my mind I knew something was wrong with the decision I was making. I was choosing the party girl who would be fun for a little while, but who I would eventually break up with. I had relationships like this before, and I knew I was making the same mistake if I broke up with C. My love for C is best captured in this Bruce Lee quote. Love is like a friendship caught on fire. In the beginning a flame, very pretty, often hot and fierce, but still only light and flickering. As love grows older, our hearts mature and our love becomes as coals, deep burning and unquenchable. C and I had always been best friends, and the best relationship advice I ever got from my uncle, who was married for 45 years, was, marry your best friend. The ex and looks will eventually go away, but your friendship will last a lifetime. Even with all this knowledge, I wanted to be with V so bad that I broke up with C. She left the house crying and went to stay in a hotel that night. I called V and she was super excited at this development. We made plans to spend the night together and finally consummate our relationship. She wasn't getting off work till midnight, so I decided to go to the gym. But while I was there I heard the Dan Batch song. Whispered words come through my headphones. Listen to this song. It's great. This song changed my life. You have to listen to this song if you never have. There was something about it that drove me into a frenzy. I kept listening to it on repeat again, and again as I ran on the treadmill. I knew the decision I was making was wrong. I realized, in the words of Gob from Arrested Development, I think I made a huge mistake. I rushed out of the gym to Jard's jewelry store. I walked in there reeking of stink and sweat and told the lady at the counter what had happened. After telling me I was an idiot, she helped me pick out a beautiful diamond ring for C. I told V everything I was feeling, and she surprisingly told me to be with C if that's what I wanted. I called C and found out the hotel where she was staying. I arrived at her room, knocked on the door, and when she opened it, I was on one knee with the ring in my hand. I wept as I told her, I'm such a effing idiot. Please forgive me this one last time. Marry me. I remember her saying, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Please tell me you're serious. I can't take this if you aren't serious. And I was. We both cried, and I profusely apologized for all the terrible things I'd done throughout our relationship. We've now been happily married for 4 years with no infidelity issues on my part. And I know every day that I made the right decision.